I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, degenerate sleuths of the night. We gather to boldly go where others have refused. Welcome to the DT show, you salty mofos.
A man accused of killing 4 college students is behind bars, and he has ties to northeastern and central Pennsylvania. State police say 28-year-old Brian Koberger was arrested this morning in a home in Chestnut Hill Township.
I can't find any case law that would support that idea. That somehow a warrant would be needed for DNA left at a crime scene.
We are expected to learn more about the allegations against the girlfriend of a Boston police officer who was found unresponsive in the snow Saturday morning. I-Team sources say Karen Reed was in a relationship with John O'Keefe. She's facing charges including motor vehicle homicide and manslaughter.
So, the Commonwealth just provided the court with information that causes me grave concern. The implications of that information may have profound effects on this defense and defense counsel.
So, get your popcorn ready and your choice of drink. Get your butt on your seat. Like, comment, and subscribe for a treat. Here we go. It's time for the show. The Drunk Turkey Show.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the DT Show. I'm Daniel, and today we're getting back into it's not really the Jack and Lilly Sullivan case. This is more about the Daniel Martell case that's happening. Now, he got arrested, which... For those that have been watching the show, I know there's a lot of people who I raise their blood pressure up a little bit. I don't know why you watch if I rise your blood pressure up a little bit, but there are some folks who think I have some sort of opinion one way or another of Daniel just solely because I don't think he took the life of his kids. Now, I've said it multiple times here that if you want to argue, and this is like the millionth time, that Daniel or Malaya both were neglectful, they were under the influence of something, should have been awake, weren't awake, by all means, go ahead. I can't argue or say one way or another. The only thing that I've been saying is I think it's stupid to think that Daniel or Malaya intentionally took the lives of their kids or had somebody kidnap them. You know, like some of the craziest stories I've heard where that, oh, we're going to find out here pretty soon because school's going to start and whoever kidnapped them is going to have to send them to school. And I'm like, are you serious? I mean, if you're committing a serious crime to kidnap somebody, I don't think you're worried about the school coming after you for not having your kids in school. I mean, how are they even going to know you have your kids? It's wild. Well, anyways, because I don't follow those narratives of conspiracy, I guess I raised some blood pressure. Well, Daniel was accused a while ago by Taylor of doing some things. And guess who broke that information? That was me. I did. I brought it out to the world because Taylor had reached out to me and she had told me what was going on. Now, she also sent me some videos of her faking bruises and doing a bunch of other things, which I thought was pretty crazy at the time. Still do. Don't get me wrong. But as I said then, and I'll say now, because I know there's a bunch of idiots that think creating some sort of lawsuit fund or lawyer fund for Daniel. Let me get this right out right now. I think Daniel's going to be found guilty of this, and rightfully so. I'll just tell you right now of this incident that he got arrested for. But they think that because I don't think he took the life of his kids, that I somehow defend Daniel for everything. No, you got it twisted. You got your mind mixed up. And so what I have been saying for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 shows, and go back and watch them, that, yeah, I think that two things can be right at the same time. I think Daniel is probably not the best boyfriend. I don't think Daniel is probably the best, going to have some bad character in him. Now, do I think that he physically took the life of his children? No, I don't. I think that with the amount of evidence that has been put into place, the amount of evidence that he has put out there, I think that they would have arrested him. And I think this arrest here in some way is somewhat proof of that. And I'll explain to you guys here in a second. Let's bring up what occurred and what happened. So this says RCMP in Pictou County have charged the stepfather of missing children, Lilly and Jack Sullivan, with sexual assault involving an adult complainant. Now, I've confirmed through one of Malaya's best friends that this is Malaya, apparently, who filed these charges. She was in the hospital for a while. I think I told you guys that. Malaya's best friend also had confirmed that. And she recently got out, and then this comes out. Now, we found out not too long ago that she had accused Daniel of doing some physical things. And again, if you go back to the video where I talk about that, I say, hey, I probably agree with those folks that disagree with me a lot. I probably agree with you more than you think about Daniel and his situation. It's just I don't agree on the big one. That I don't think he took the life of his kids. You know what I'm saying? And so let's continue. I don't feel like sitting down. I got a bad back, guys. RCMP spokesperson Allison Gerard said in an email Thursday that Martell was arrested Monday at 1:30 a.m. in Pictou County without incident. All charges involving the same complainant. Court documents show and occurred in Lansdowne Station. All three alleged offenses happened between September 1st and 2024, March 30th, between September 1st, 2024, and March 30th, 2025. So this is before the disappearance of Jack and Lilly. Again, we just recently found out some information. Now, what's possibly changed, right? If Malaya got out of the hospital, she's had some time to think about things. Maybe now she wants to pursue with charges. Because, you know, some people are asking, why charge him now instead of charging him when Malaya made these statements? Because these statements didn't come out, you know, a couple of weeks ago. These statements came out to the law enforcement when the kids disappeared, right? And so, you kind of have to have somebody willing to press charges to then go and make an arrest. And so what does that say? That says a couple of things, right? That says that law enforcement, one, they're not going to make an arrest unless they feel they have the evidence to do so. Because in a scenario where she made the statements that she did, they probably could have arrested Daniel in that moment. But would they get a conviction if Malaya was not cooperative? Even though she mentioned these things and said these things. Now, you know, Canada's a little bit different than the United States. And so here in the United States, there's something called beyond reasonable doubt. And if you don't have your complainant up there testifying, you know, then that's going to be an issue. So even though you have these things, and here in the United States, well, here in Texas, that is, if you have a domestic violence situation and the victim doesn't want to pursue charges, the person still can be arrested. I don't know if that's the same everywhere. I don't know if that's the same in other countries. But what this tells me is that she probably wasn't ready to pull the trigger on that. Now, given the time frame of September 2024 and March 2025, what do we think they have, right? So if we were to look at this rationally, because they're going through a custody battle and accusations going back and forth in an ugly custody battle, you know, it's not uncommon, right? And sometimes things can be stretched, sometimes they can't. And so law enforcement would understand that. So to me, for them to make an arrest, knowing that in the background means there's something concrete here, guys. There's some concrete evidence against Daniel right here. And just kind of talking to Daniel and knowing him and talking to Taylor, I can almost guarantee you the evidence is going to be from Daniel's own, well, I was going to say his own mouth. I bet you it's text messages. I bet you it's a lot of things. Because when he was talking to Taylor, he was telling her all this stuff like, what are you going to do when you get here? You're going to give me your phone. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And I reported this to you guys. I had reported this to you guys. And so real super controlling. And I told you guys this. I was like, hey, this guy don't seem like the best boyfriend in the world to folks or to young ladies. And I ended up being true. And so here, what do they have? They probably have him talking about it. Like when he was talking to Taylor, he had told her one thing that was pretty wild that I was reading. It said something to the effect that, what are you going to do when you get here? Or what are you not going to do? And she's like, I'm not going to turn around this time. He's like, good, Taylor. Now, what are you going to do when you get here? I'm going to give you my phone or something like that. And it was really like super weird. But again, because that look, he's that way and could something else have happened? Maybe, but you got to look at all the evidence and you have to look at everything that has been put in front of you. And to me, it just still seems like the kids, I mean, who knows? Perhaps the kids walked off because they heard Daniel and Malaya arguing. I mean, I told you that probably, oh gosh, when I first started talking about this case. And I found out that Malaya was trying to leave Daniel before the kids went missing. I said, I think I've said this like 3 or 4 times, to be honest with you. I said, isn't it possible, if they were going through this? Because if Malaya's wanting to leave Daniel, that does not mean that the relationship is going well, right? Usually if somebody wants to leave somebody, it's because the relationship's going sour. And knowing how Daniel has been with Taylor and things like that, and obviously now that we read this, don't you think that the kids are seeing this? Now, isn't it possible? And I said this a long time ago, but those folks who are too blinded by what I'm saying to even listen to what I'm saying, right? They think because I don't agree with the big conspiracy, or I don't say, hey, you might be right that the reservation might have the kids and that Malaya, conned this complete, conspiracy to have them kidnapped. They shut out everything I say. But what I had said was, if Malaya was trying to leave Daniel, that usually is an indication of problems in the relationship. Given some of the accusations that have been out there, these young kids are in the house. Isn't it possible that they may have gotten frightened, gotten scared, anything, and left the house because of that? Especially if they got into an argument that night at 4 a.m. or whatever. Daniel's not very open to me about what he was doing the night before. And no, I have not talked to him. I've not talked to him in probably over a month now. He had told me he was going to stop talking to the media, and that was the end of it. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if that was because he found out this was coming down the line. You get what I'm saying? I would not be surprised that he wanted to stop talking to the media, stop talking to social media, stop putting interviews out there because he was aware this was coming out. Now, I know he was aware it was coming out in the in the other documents. Now, just kind of like I say in the Brian Coverger case, be careful what you wish for, right? Daniel wanted everything to be released, and everything was. Not saying that release caused him to get arrested. I think regardless if they were going to release the information, it just allows us, the public, to kind of connect the dots onto who's the victim, when this happened, kind of makes sense, as well as who's the victim here. And so on. And so let's see. Martell was released on conditions and is scheduled to appear on Pictou Provincial Court March 2nd for arraignment. So they released them. Now the charge, what does that mean? So the charges were like, let's go back up. It was sexual assault, and I believe it was like, here, I have them over here. Let's see, forcible confinement. So holding somebody down, not allowing somebody to leave, an assault, touching somebody. Now, the sexual assault aspect of it, I looked it up in Canada. It can be anything from inappropriate touching of someone where they don't want you to, all the way to forcible penetration. And so if it was the latter, the forcible side of it, I don't think they would have released them. But I don't know. I have zero idea. I think they would have given him a high. I mean, but then again, if this was the United States, they would have given him a high ass bond. and kept his ass in jail for that. So, but again, like, what, they're not going to go in there and just arrest Daniel Martell based on a he said, she said. So they have to have some information. They have to have evidence against him. And like I said, I'm fairly positive it's his own words. I mean, the guy, when he talks a storm, which kind of leads me to kind of finish off with this aspect of it. If the RCMP were so quick to arrest him as soon as Malaya got out of the hospital and was willing to press charges, why not arrest him for Jack and Lilly? Why continue to go on and say that they say, well, we still don't have any suspects. There's nothing there in the Jack and Lilly case, but we have, we're arresting him for this. Given the amount of information that he had given to law enforcement. So he was super, he turned over everything. And again, they had all this evidence here against them. They had his phone. They have all that stuff. I'm fairly positive that if he wiped his phone or he did all these other things, or if she did that, then they wouldn't have been able to pull up the text messages from a year earlier and the messages that they have in front of each other. Because I'm assuming, that's my assumption, but I'm pretty positive they have something like that. They're not going to be able to pull that up. And if he wiped out his phone for what he did the day before. So if they have all the way back to that point, I should say something. Number two, the other thing it tells me, and I've been telling you guys this for a while, Daniel Martell and Malaya Brooks are not on the same team. They are not in cahoots. They are not working together to create an alibi, to create a story that's going to protect each other. Now, more so than ever, don't you think Daniel has a reason to go, hey, you know what happened that morning? Jack and Lilly disappeared. Malaya did this or Malaya did that. And if, they got all the evidence in front of them, they got all their stuff. So is it, they had enough to arrest him for something that occurred so much long, period of time before, because of the amount of cooperation that he has done. Right. And so to me, I think what this probably means, does this clear up a picture? I think that there was a hostile environment in that house. I think it'd been a hostile environment and not an environment that you want the kids to grow up in. And I think it's highly likely that the reason the kids walked out that morning, and maybe perhaps the reason why Malaya and Daniel, say they don't hear anything or they didn't hear him walk out or any of those things, is maybe they were awake. Maybe they were arguing that morning. And maybe that's why they didn't know. Maybe that's why Malaya called her mom at 8:30. And because they were arguing over that and this and that, and the kids walked outside to get away from it, they didn't hear him. And in that instance, I would say that both parents could be culpable. More Daniel than Malaya. But if Malaya was aware of the surroundings, if she was aware that Daniel was using drugs or had been, physically abusive for all this time, and she had avenues of getting her and her kid out of there, and I'm not going to blame a victim of anything, but when it comes to the children going missing, some folks will say that the parents, have a right to put the children before the partner and take the kids out of the home. Now, I think this is why Meadow has been in child custody this entire time. They've had reports and they've had information about the physical abuse, even if Malaya at the time was not wanting to cooperate or maybe perhaps not wanting to pursue charges. Right? And so even though she doesn't want to, they have the evidence against it. And then Malaya was in the hospital and she was doing a bunch of other stuff. We have audio that she was drinking it up, partying it up. I think her friend Haley said something about getting dressed to the nines every night going out, and that Patty had to get onto her. And and another relative of theirs because they were drinking, and they left a mess in the house. Now, to me, somebody, falling back on alcohol or drugs or whatever during a time like this, it's not uncommon. If somebody's going through a loss, whether it's a death, a missing person, a serious injury, those type of things. It's not uncommon for people to turn to vices like alcohol and drugs. And so for her to be drinking and stuff like that may be perceived in one light as her partying it up and doing things like that. But in reality, it could be very well of her trying to cope with the loss of her kids. I don't know. I don't know her. I've never talked to Malaya. And so let's see. I want to say thank you to Sirius. Nice to see everyone this morning. Nice to see you too. Nice to see you too, Sirius. Good to see you. Kelkill comes in with $5 saying, perfect way to start off a Sunday. Thank you. I appreciate you. Appreciate you. Both are neglectful in my opinion. I mean, I think that there's a world that is very well possible. And that's what I've been saying. The one thing that I have been denying, or the things that I've been denying, is that Daniel and Malaya intentionally physically harmed their kids. I still don't believe that they accidentally did something and then went and disposed of the bodies, because of a couple of reasons. One, there's been cadaver dogs that have searched the area and the perimeter. Daniel didn't have enough time. Those type of incidents are incidents that occur in the moment. Like when a child loses their life to a parent, very rarely is it like Ashley Buzzard and Melody Buzzard, where she has this orchestrated plan where she's going to go drive away and then at some point take the life of her kids or her child. Most scenarios are accidental, somebody using drugs, somebody losing it out of rage or control or whatever. Those situations happen in the moment, and there's not a lot of pre-planning that you can do to ensure that you're mitigating evidence, right? And so in that scenario, and given the fact that Daniel was arriving when law enforcement was there, should tell you a few things, right? How much time he had, how far he could have gotten, where the cameras are on the roads. Even though there may not be one that's pointing directly at his house, there are some in the area that he would have had to have passed if he was going a significant distance. The GPS on the vehicle, that should tell you where the vehicle went. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can determine, where Daniel went that morning or how far he got. And then you have your dogs and you just go based off of radius, and timing and those things as well, like key cycle timing from when the vehicle was turned on, turned off, those type of things. So it wouldn't be difficult to locate a hiding spot. And I don't think Daniel and Malaya and Janie are smarter than the RCMP or major crimes to have disposed of the body in such a quick time, cooperate in the amount that they have cooperated, and not get caught. You get what I'm saying? It just those dots don't connect for me. Now, them wandering off due to an incident that was going on in the house makes a hell of a lot more sense to me. And why they really didn't hear them walk out, or why they didn't go, and why it was a surprise. Maybe that is the one thing that both of them are, sticking to, is that, but I doubt it, now that I think about it, because at this point, I think Malaya would have, or I don't know. I mean, I've never talked to Malaya, but I would have thought that information would have came out like, no, we were arguing that morning, but they could have, and he could have gone to bed and laid down after the argument. And I mean, there's a lot of things that have been alleged, including that she woke up at some point and caught Daniel doing drugs. I don't know how true that is. Daniel denied it. Malaya's friends said that that's what Malaya told them. So I don't know. Let's see. 2 weeks ago, newly unsealed documents show that Brooks Murray alleged that Martell had been physically abusive in the interview with RCMP. Martell denied those allegations and told the Global News it was part of a narrative to paint him in a negative light. So what does he mean by that? He's probably referring to his court custody thing with his daughter, and not you know, um, uh, custody things are ugly, and they can get really ugly. And, if you got two folks who really, really are at it at each other, it can be bad. Now, not saying that that's what this is or not. I strongly suspect for RCMP to make an arrest knowing that there's a custody issue, that they got pretty solid evidence. And I think he's going to end up going down for it. I don't know if they do plea deals or what kind of plea deals they do out there, but I wouldn't be surprised given the fact that he was already released and with conditions. He's probably going to get some sort of, deal for probation or something of that nature. And I would say, if he does something like that again, he's going to be in some really big trouble with enhancements. Now, if it is a more serious sexual assault case, now that's if it's more like on the side of just touching, right? Because it was it's a wide range for sexual assault in Canada, from everything from inappropriate touching to forcible penetration. Now, if it was the forcible penetration stuff, I'm pretty sure his bond would have been higher than he could get out of. That's just my opinion. So I would think it's probably, also what they can prove too, right? So they may only be able to prove the touching if that's all he said in his text messages. So there may be other accusations of stronger assault accusations there, but it's also what you can prove in this time. So many, like, I guess like almost a whole year later, year and a half later, it's going to be difficult to get concrete evidence. You can't do like a R kit, those type of things, and so there's only so much you're going to be able to get. Let's see. RCMP confirmed that Daniel Martell, 34, was arrested Monday morning. Police note the charges involve an adult victim. And so they wanted people to know that this is involving an adult victim. Why would they want people to know? They want people to know that this does not relate to Jack and Lilly. Basically it. And there's a little picture of Jack and Lilly. Poor kids. The children, who were aged 6 and 4 at the time, were reported missing on May 2nd, 2025 from their home in Pictou County. Martell has spoken to Global News various times about the children's disappearance and said the family called 911 and believed at the time the siblings wandered away from the family home, which is situated in a heavily wooded area. Despite repeated and extensive searches involving police, volunteers, and cadaver dogs, the children have not been found. 2 weeks ago, newly unsealed documents show Brooks Murray alleged Martell had been physically abusive in an interview with RCMP. Martell denied those allegations and told it was part of a narrative. I think I already read that part. All right, so I'll answer just a couple questions, and then we'll call it a show. I want to say thank you, Sirius, again, and want to say thank you to Kel for coming in. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. They are sweet kids. They are. I feel bad for them. RCMP wouldn't arrest until they have enough for a conviction. They could likely charge DM, but wouldn't risk him getting off. They are still working on DM, in my opinion. I mean, it's possibly that they're still working on him. I just think that Brooks Murray getting out of the hospital and then this happening, I just feel like the most logical thing is they had the evidence, and they probably would have arrested Daniel a long time ago. And my assumption, and this is my opinion alone, she changed her mind about some things and decided to press charges against them after all. I think that's just kind of where this sits to me. And so what does that mean? They don't need Jack and Lilly to press charges on Daniel. You know what I mean? So they needed Malaya to press charges on Daniel. So I don't know what else they would be working on to try to get Daniel. But like I have been telling you guys this entire time, and I even told this to Daniel because it was getting a little bit frustrating because he was like, "Oh man, the police like me. They do this. They hang out with me. They take me on car rides," and I'm like, "Dude, I don't think that's what it is." Now I didn't tell him that for the longest time, and at some point I was telling him, I was like, dude, you were a suspect. They wouldn't give you a lie detector test. They wouldn't do all that stuff. And, you know, I don't remember what he had said, but I was like, dude, that's how. I was like, just, yeah. And to me, they knew all this since way back then. Because, yeah, granted, we found out about what Malaya said on January 15th, but that wasn't when RCMP found out about it. It wasn't when they had the evidence about it. You know, they've had this for some time now. They've had it. Now they've just decided to charge him. I guarantee you, I would bet a lot of money. Tell me in the comment section, do you think this is because somebody changed their mind? I do. Now, you know, I had thought maybe perhaps this could have been the Taylor, the girlfriend, because Taylor did tell me that she reported Daniel as well. She filed charges against him some time ago. You know, nothing ever came out of it. So it's, you know, with Taylor, it's a difficult situation because she actually does have videos of her creating, you know, bruises and stuff like that. And then there's also where she's like messaging Daniel and kind of being the first one, right? And kind of being a little bit also persistent with him. Not completely. It's both of them. There's Daniel, like when he I think there was one time there she didn't go. She didn't feel comfortable. And so she didn't go. And I think he didn't talk to her for like a day. And then he was blowing her up for another day, something of that nature. And I was just like, wow. But, you know, you got to take that information. You got to say, all right, how does that fit with the charges? Because everybody got stuff in their, in their, you know, skeletons in the closet, so to speak, right? You know, how does that fit with what the evidence has? Now, to me, I still think the kids wandered off, given the amount of information that Daniel and Malaya have put forth, and given the fact that RCMP aren't just hanging out with him and letting him get away with anything. Clearly, they're arresting him. Tells me that if they had something concrete for Jack and Lilly against Daniel, he would have had bracelets on a long time ago. I just don't think that's the case, but who knows, you know? DT, if Daniel is found guilty and deceased, what are your thoughts on the case because you believe they wandered off into the woods? Well, he's not even a suspect yet. So how is he going to be found guilty of Jack and Lilly? I mean, this is something that's like, I mean, I could say, hey, what if your neighbor got found guilty of Jack and Lilly? How are you going to feel because your neighbor, you know, went out all the way to Lansdowne Station and took Jack and Lilly? I mean, it's, you know, ask me that question when it becomes a suspect, because here's the thing. I don't stick to my stances. I'm not like these other creators who have a stance and want to stick to it because they want to prove they were right. That's not me. I like to be right and I follow what is right. And so if the circumstance changes, so does the stance. Right now, there is absolutely nothing, in my opinion, that says that Daniel physically harmed his kids. I think there would be you know, for them to, for the disappearance. I mean, maybe even the black eyes and stuff, you know, from beforehand. I don't know. But when it comes to them disappearing that morning, you know, he's passed the lie detector test. He's given up his phone. He's given up all this stuff. The other thing is, too, if they ever were to charge Daniel for this, it's going to be a very difficult case to take to a grand jury or to a jury, and for somebody to not find reasonable doubt here. And the reason behind it is all the information that the RCMP has put forth. RCMP is the one who said that Daniel passed the lie detector test, and this was all subject due to a court order. So this isn't them being dishonest. This isn't them saying, hey, we're going to try to, you know, put this out there and so that Daniel's guard can be dropped. No, this was from a court order because the media went to, you know, a judge and required some transparency because it was not a criminal offense. So before he can even be found guilty of anything, there has to be a criminal offense, and there hasn't even been a criminal offense that developed yet. And so But back to what I was saying, if they ever arrested him, his lawyer would have so much crap. It would be a very difficult case to get somebody found innocent or found guilty on, just based on the fact that they're going to use the fact that he passed a lie detector test. They're going to use his cooperation. They're going to use the fact that there's footprints in the middle of the woods. There's the blanket. There's this. There's quite a bit of information to put in, a lot there for him. Not saying that would be, what I'm like hoping for. Like, oh, if he gets arrested, I hope he gets off on it. No. Now, if they arrest him, that means they have something concrete, or he confessed. Now, if he confesses, I'm not going to be. I'm not one of these weirdos who thinks Ricky Allen is innocent or Brian Koberger is innocent, even though they admitted to it, and still say, "Oh no, guys, they really didn't do it." I follow law enforcement, and I think that's where the disconnect here is that law enforcement is who's saying that Daniel hasn't done anything to Jack and Lilly. It's not my opinion. It's not it's not something that's a conspiracy or made up. It's what RCMP has said. And I am a commentator. All right, Corbin. So what that means is I talk about what is being put out there in a logical manner. And so I don't try to create anything. I don't try to solve anything. Right. What I try to do is explain what's there and explain what law enforcement must have based on the circumstances that are presented in front of them and what the most likely outcome would be of that. Now, my opinion is based on the RCMP. I am just following what they have said and the information that they have put forth. I think it would be weird, that RCMP would go back on all the crap that they put out there through a court document. I don't know. And if they tried, I don't know how that's going to sit in front of a jury. Oh, we lied, throughout the court. We lied to the judge when we put out this information. We lied to the people when we put this information in a public document that was requested by a judge in a court order. And then if I was Daniel's defense attorney, then, well, if you lied then, what's to say you're not lying now, or you're not lying when you're saying it's him? You're not lying when you're saying it's that. Oh, we were wrong. Well, what's to say you're not wrong now? You get what I'm saying? Like, it would be very difficult, in my opinion. Now, if he confessed, I'd, just like I'm here now, be up here now saying, hey, Daniel Martell confessed, and this guy outsmarted the major crimes for how many months, how many years, or whatever it was until they arrested him. After all the evidence, they continually came forth. Even after they arrested him, they wanted to make sure that they noted, here's what it says, note that this involves an adult victim so that the public is aware that this has nothing to do with Jack and Lilly. When the two neighbors came out saying that they heard a vehicle, law enforcement was quick to come to his defense and say that those things weren't true, that they investigated those allegations and they found out to be not true. Not saying that the neighbors were lying. They definitely could have been, onto something, but it wasn't that night that the night before the kids disappeared, because they have video surveillance. And one of them is saying that you can see the lights through the trees. And if you have video surveillance from the area that points in the general direction of where the lights would be facing, guess what you're going to capture? And if it's not there, then there's no evidence of that there. So, not saying that anybody lied, just that they were inaccurate or wrong. But police even come with this. Hey, he's arrested for this. Not is involving an adult victim, has nothing to do with the kids. So, but how long is it going to be, though? I got a question for you, Corbin. How long is it going to be before you think that, all right, maybe Daniel and Malaya didn't intentionally do something to their kids or have an accident and hid the bodies? How many investigations have to be done? You asked me, how long is it going to be, how am I going to act or react before, if he's ever found guilty for this? My question is for y'all that think he's going to be found guilty. Please answer this question. how long will it be before you start to realize that's not going to be the case? How many investigations need to happen where law enforcement say that there's no criminal offense being occurred here when it comes to the kids? How many of those have to happen before you're like, all right, that makes sense? How many times does law enforcement have to tell the media, have to come out in press conferences? Again, this is not me. I'm not them. And I have no power over the RCMP. So, I know there's some people that think that if I say Daniel's guilty, they're going to go and arrest him. I have no idea where they get that thought process that I control the RCMP. I don't. And if this rises your blood pressure, dude, just turn it off. You don't have to watch me, right? I don't watch any of these other weirdos that are out here saying all these other things. I really don't. I really don't even stay in tune too much with like news and stuff. I'm kind of what do you call it? I kind of tone everything out. I think that's why I'm not a freaking zombie like some folks. And so, and I'm not calling anybody here a zombie. What I'm saying is I've just seen some crazy crap. Like somebody thought that because somebody said in my Discord, who wasn't me, that somebody should raise funds for Daniel or something of that nature, that somehow came from me, and that I should go and delete what people say in my live chat, in my Discord, and in the comment section if it's not something that represents what I say. Like, mother trucker, I don't control what everybody else says. Everybody has a right for freedom of speech and have a right to say whatever they want. You know what I'm saying? I can't control what you say or what that person says, and I don't want to. I care less what anybody else thinks. Oh, gosh, people are crazy. People are crazy. Let's see. Drippy goes, so many people up that morning from 6 a.m., but nobody laid eyes on them. Then all the adults on the property decide to go back to bed when the kids go missing. Well, I don't know about anybody being up at 6 a.m. I know that somebody was up at 8 a.m., 8:30, and that the kids were going back and forth. I know that, if you're talking about Janie being up at 6 a.m. to feed the roosters and trying to implement that into Daniel and Malaya being up at that time, that's a little bit of a stretch. That's a little bit of a stretch. But I get what you're saying. I'm not going to, say that that's not a red flag. But it's kind of like I've been telling you guys, right? Where in the Brian Koberger case, where I would say, hey, I don't need the weatherman to tell me that it rained. If I go outside and I see the ground is all wet, I look up, I see dark clouds leaving my area, and it smells like rain in the air, and everything is wet, right? I don't need a weatherman. I don't have to go to the weatherman to say that. In this scenario here, it's the opposite. It's, have you seen, dark clouds and it not rain? The dark clouds are going to be the red flags. These red flags about people going to sleep and stuff. The weatherman is law enforcement, right? So you go outside, there's no arrest, there's no nothing, so there's no water on the ground. You go check the weatherman, which would be law enforcement in this scenario. They're telling you, hey, we saw some dark clouds, but we got no rain. And everything is dry as a bone outside. And yet we're still saying, well, you know what? I saw some dark clouds, so it must have rained. And that's kind of how we are in this scenario here, is that, we have a red flag here, we have a red flag there. It must be something horrible. And to be honest with you, everybody's going to have red flags in their life. You're going to find those things. It's what you find when the evidence is portrayed. What comes out of it is what matters. You look at Ashley Buzzard, she orchestrated this huge thing, and that kept her free for a while. They couldn't find the bodies, and once they did, they ended up arresting them because they were able to prove that it was foul play more so than anything else. But they had other ideas already. But that was pre-planned. And because she pre-planned it, that allowed her to be free. This wasn't pre-planned. whatever happened here wasn't something that they're like, hey, on this date and on this time, we're going to go and do something to the kids. All right. And when you don't have something that's pre-planned, and you report it right away, like look at the Haro case. That was another case where the kids went missing for some time. Nobody knew because in the Haro case, a little baby, he didn't go to school or anything like that. And so he was missing for a while. And then they come out and they start coming out with their lies and things, right? The parents come out and report it. And there's a good possibility that the baby had already been missing for some period of time. I think there was like a funeral that had occurred, a couple of, weeks or days before. And the parents were there without the baby. Interesting. I wonder if law enforcement checked that funeral site. I know they haven't found his body yet. And they were there and crying and things. And so, interesting. Anyways, so I forgot where I was at. Oh yeah, with a Haro case. So as soon as they came out and they started talking to law enforcement, and they cooperated a little bit, not a lot of bit, but a little bit, and it wasn't very long. But because they prolonged the report of the child, and they never found his body still to this day, it allowed the Haros to be free for a couple weeks. Now we're looking at this case, and we're looking at the amount of cooperation. And this case most likely not being a scenario that the kids were missing for a couple of days because there's video of them the day before. Doesn't mean something couldn't have happened and they're in the middle of the night, and I understand that. But with the amount of cooperation, the amount of talking that they have done, they've been able to charge Daniel with a crime that he committed possibly a year before in 2024. So take that for what it is. Take it for what it is. Texas Ranger says if they had him arrested for being evidence of him being involved, he'd been arrested. I agree. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's what I'm saying when I say is, for those that tell me, what are you going to do when Daniel gets arrested and he gets charged and he's found guilty? It's like, we can what if all day, but at what point are you going to say, hey, maybe this isn't what I'm thinking? Law enforcement continue to say this. Law enforcement continue to put documents that say that Daniel and Malaya didn't have anything nefariously involved in their kid's disappearance. That there aren't any suspects, that there isn't a crime that has been committed when it involves their disappearance. I mean, how much of that is it going to take before you finally say, all right, what is it going to take? Yeah. What is it going to take? Somebody else coming forward and admitting guilt of something, maybe finding the bodies somewhere and there being evidence that they'd been out there that entire time and they weren't, they succumbed. There's evidence that they succumbed to the wilderness. I mean, maybe that's what it'll take, I guess. But, for me, like I said, I follow law enforcement. I listen to what they say and I only report what they say. I don't report bull crap off of Reddit or any of these other stuff or any other place. I never have in any of the other things. Don't report theories or conspiracies or any of those stuff. I report what's on the media and more so what comes from law enforcement. And that's what we do on this page or on this channel. Let's see. Daniel, what do you think of the possibility that DM's working hours being cut back to where he's home more and she couldn't run around doing as she wants when he's not there? I think more so than anything, his hours being cut, adding a small location because it's a smaller trailer, kids, you're adding financial stress from the hours being cut, and then in confined where you don't really have money to go and do things. And then maybe perhaps if he's spending whatever money they have on drugs, that could also cause even more strain on the financial aspect. I think that more so than anything, I can say that all those things can lead up to a very volatile situation No, DT, you're right. But watch what will come. Here's the other thing. Here's the thing, though, Cryptic. Lie detection analysis isn't admissible in court for the state. I guarantee your bottom dollar, your bottom dollar that that the defense is going to use it. See, that's the difference, right? That rule is in place to protect the defendant. If the defendant passes it, I guarantee you the defense is going to bring it up. That's the problem, right? Now, is it not admissible in court because it's not 100% guaranteed? Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. But the problem is more than Daniel took a lie detector test. You had Malaya take the lie detector test as well. You also have these two people who, let's just say that they're your prime suspects. They separated each other right away, which is something that you want to do if you're a detective. You're like, all right, what do I want to do? I want to separate my suspects. I don't want them talking to each other. I want to isolate them, and then I want to turn them on each other. And guess what? Daniel and Malaya have done that to each other since the beginning. And now look at what's going on. There's charges being filed against each other. There's a custody court battle. So these people are not in cahoots. They're not working together. There isn't an alibi that they're working to keep so that way they don't go to jail. You know, this would be a very bold move for Malaya to say, all right, you know what? I'm going to send Daniel to jail, you know, and accuse him of something if she had something to do with the kid's disappearance. And he could turn around and say, hey, well, screw it. I'm going to jail already because of what you're saying. I'm going to make sure you go to jail too. And this is what happened. And now they're both going to jail. It's a pretty big risk. So I don't feel that if Malaya had something to do, I don't feel that if Malaya had something to do with the disappearance that she would have reported any crime, you know, about Daniel to the RCMP. But you have more than one person pass it, and then you also have all the other evidence that goes along with it. You can't just cherry pick something, right, and say, oh, well, it's the lie detector test and that's it, and hey, it's inadmissible in court because of this, so hey, he's guilty. What about everything else? What about the boot prints? What about the phone? What about the financial records? What about the amount of interrogations that he take? You know, the amount of cooperation that he has put in place along with the lie detector test. Because if you isolate, oh yeah, just the one thing, the lie detector test, then we're going to be isolating one thing over and over and over again. It's the compilation of all the information and the facts. And once you put it together, that's when the lie detector test is really more so a cherry on the top of the sundae than the meats and potato of what goes with it, if that makes sense. Big North Marty. I'm not going to bring that up. But that's a very rude way of saying what I don't disagree that Daniel Martell is not more intelligent than law enforcement, and maybe not a good person overall, but probably had nothing to do with the kids disappearing physically. Now, if him and Malaya had an argument that morning and the kids wanted to get away from that, are they culpable? I would say, yeah. You know, you gotta be more diligent about your kids and more vigilant about your kids, and making sure that, especially if they're known to wander off, that you got things in place. Let's see. Oh, here's one of the smart ones. Go back and listen. Freaking loser. Man, I swear, people are just I know you like the guy, and disclaimer that I'm not a fan. Who said I like the guy? But if you want a wild, uninformed take, which deception detectives take. I thought you were talking about me not liking that. I don't have a problem with deception detective. I haven't seen his newest take there, Ron. I haven't seen his newest take. I have nothing against him. I'm not his friend either. He what do you call it? I thought you were talking about Daniel. I was like, I know you like the guy. I was like, whoa. I was like, I mean, I like Daniel less a lot now more so than I did, beforehand. Do I hate Daniel? Do I think he had something nefarious to do with his kids? No. Do I think he needs to change? 100%. I think he needs to be a better man, better person to his mom and to women in general too, to anybody that he comes across in the future. Um, you know, uh, that's the other thing too. I mean, it's not just Daniel, right? Like if Daniel did something, it would have to be Daniel, it had to be Malaya, it had to be Janie, all these people involved in it. And for all these people to be involved in it, and none of them and have all these issues and none of them crack, that's wild. But yeah, I haven't seen Deceptive Detective's take on his arrest. I'll check it out. Ron, my mistake, man. I thought you were talking about Daniel at first. But yeah, Deception Detective. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I responded to one of his videos or two of them. I got nothing but respect for him. I don't have anything against him. I try not to disrespect anybody unless they come in rude and ugly. I'm mirror, guys. You come in talking smack. I mean, I'm gonna talk smack back. The thing is, I'm probably better at it than you. Let's see. Thank you, Kel. Appreciate it. All righty, guys. Well, I actually hit the hour mark, pretty close to it. Was only planning on doing about 25 to 30 minutes because I didn't think there was going to be a lot of information here to discuss, but we did. I want to thank everybody for tuning in on this Sunday morning. Please be safe. I hope your weekend was great. I'll be back on Tuesday night. I'll be talking the Brian Koberger case with a civil attorney. We're going to be discussing the WSU lawsuit from the victim's family members to WSU in referencing the possibility of could they have done something to have prevented the murders? Did they have enough complaints? Those type of things. We're going to discuss all of that on the next one on Tuesday. And then I'll be back Wednesday. I think tomorrow. Don't be surprised if I have another video dropping on my hobby that I've been coming up with. So thank you guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. You guys know what to do. I'll see you guys on Tuesday night on the live show. Peace out, y'all.